Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. The October 1st EDC. I'm going to do a roll call first. Bill Groves, Commissioner.
Craig Mellon, Commissioner.
Paul McGurk, Commissioner.
Susan Dowling, Commissioner.
Tom, you're on mute. Are you there, Tom? Nope, Tom just left us. Tom's back. Oh, here he goes. He's connecting. Come on, Tommy. George, you on?
Who are we missing besides George? Anybody? I don't.
Tom's just trying to connect to the audio.
Okay.
You there, Tom?
Sorry, Bill. I had to switch over to the phone.
No problem. We were just doing roll call. So if you just announce yourself, please.
Yep, Thomas Spinelli present.
Thanks, Tom. Justin?
Present. Justin Primo, present.
Thank you. And did George join us? There's George. He's on mute, but he's there.
Hi, folks.
So George is also present. So, hey, George, how are you? Okay.
Good. I was trying to locate how to zoom in.
No problem. Okay, so public communications as our first item on the calendar. I don't know of anyone that was here to speak. Is there anyone on the call that wanted to speak from the public?
Nope, there's no people there.
Very good.
Can I ask? I thought we review the minutes for the previous meeting. Is that not? Are we doing?
That's our next agenda item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That is quite all right, Susan.
Thank
So
you.
the next is the approval of the minutes from our September 3rd meeting. I do have one addition to it on the bottom of new business. It says Groves asked McGurk regarding the short-term rental regulations and all like that. And I did just ask him to keep the commission informed of any updates.
I also like. I also,
go ahead, Susan.
I'm sorry, Bill. I also note that we didn't put the time of the that we adjourned on number 8.1 on the second page. We usually put the time that we adjourn, so I don't know.
If I get the time, Susan, then I do put it, but I did not get it, so that's why it's just a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay, no problem.
And that's fine with regulations, correct, Lauren?
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
So I make a motion to accept the report with the correction or the amendment that Bill referenced.
I have a motion.
Second.
Do I have a second? Second from Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Okay, I'm going to make a slight change for old business just because I do like to give the courtesy to when we have someone coming from the outside that is addressing something. I'm just going to move the Tif policy changes above the business outreach, health and community initiative, just so John can give his presentation and we give his attention. And that way, when we're done with that, we can get him off the phone call and he can go about his business. Is everyone fine with that?
Yes.
Yeah, sounds good.
So that being
Yes.
said, I will introduce John Reiner, who has changes to the Tif policy. John.
Thank you, everyone. First of all, Bill, thank you for always shifting things around on the agenda to allow me to go through. So I really appreciate that. So once again, in your package, you have a revised Tif policy. The original Tif policy was adopted back in March of 2018. We have some changes that have been proposed. When you look through the document, there's a lot of strike throughs. When you start reading what all those changes are, the majority of them are really just some very minor wording changes. the general, capitalizing some things. But the main two changes within the Tif policy that we're addressing with this change are, one, formally making the Economic Development Commission our TIF advisory board or our TIF advisory commission. And the second is there was a change to the state law dealing with the tax increment financing in relation to how long our Planning and Zoning Commission has to refer and review any TIF district master plans. Now, some people had asked, oh, wait, are they going to have enough time? Before, there was a minimum time that was in there. That was an extremely long period of time. It doesn't mean that the Planning and Zoning Commission has to rush through at this point in time in their review, but we don't have as long as a required timeline for how quickly they actually go through and review those that master plan. So those are the two main changes. Some of the others that you see in here are because we have the city and the town, there's some things in here that we had to address that deal with the town-only master plan versus the city and town plan. So just that was addressed and just kind of the language was cleaned up a little bit. So, and again, dealing with that referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission, instead of it being at least 90 days, which was a long delay, now they have at least 10 days prior to the public hearing. So again, the commission could have longer to review it, but it doesn't have to be that maximum time that it was before. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John.
John, it's Susan, just a quick question. The changes that the city made that required the town to make changes to the TIF policy through the town, is that just, to try to work together to make it the right language because it's city versus town?
Exactly. There was nothing that was a conflict in the city's approach versus the town's approach. It was more just some of the wording that they used was a little bit better than our original draft and how the coordination would work between the two. So once it was something that we knew we wanted to change as it dealt with the policy. So that's why that's also included in here.
Okay, that's good to know. I did go through, and I think you're going to start working through, or maybe just asking for any revisions or corrections, what have you, in the red highlighted parts of the policy. Is that what you're going to do next? Because there was just a couple minor things, and again, it's not really important, but I just didn't know if that's what your plan was.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two ways. If members have some changes that they want to suggest at this point in time, you certainly could bring those up. Or if you wanted to email those to me, I'm certainly happy to look at those and modify the document, because we haven't gone to public hearing yet. So whatever is best for all of you and utilizing your time in the most efficient manner.
Yeah, it's not important. I just wondered how this process was going to work, and I can certainly catch up with you later. It's just a minor thing. Thank you.
Anyone else? Tom, do you want to speak?
No, I'm good.
Oh, I just saw you. Your little square lit up. So can I just ask one question, John? So it seems to me it's more advantageous that they've moved the timeline up, so this could actually be a little bit better, for lack of a better, in the process.
Bill, could you ask people to mute if they're not speaking? Because I think that's why he keeps lighting up. Maybe that'll help.
Okay.
Not everybody's muted when you're, I think it should only be unmuted when they're speaking.
I have Lauren on that. I don't know if she can handle it from the phone, but thank you, Susan.
Well, they can unmute. They can mute themselves. I'm just suggesting it. Okay.
I got it. So Tom's on mute now. Thank you.
All right, so Bill, yes, to answer your question, really what this does is it allows us the flexibility to move the master plan review up faster. Before, there was a 3-month delay between the time when we pre-setting the public hearing for the Planning and Zoning Commission to review it, whereas now we can move that through faster if we have the ability to do that. If the Planning and Zoning Commission wants to review it for longer, they certainly can, longer than the 10 days, but it's not required that it's 90.
Thank you.
Also, I should say that after EDC meeting tonight, we do have a public hearing with the council next Tuesday. And then from there, we would go through the actual other council steps to adopt. So if any people have comments between, on this document, please get them to me before Tuesday, and I can certainly incorporate them in.
So then my understanding would be is what we're voting on tonight is just to accept your presentation, have you, and then you can, any other changes that come forward, you would present to the council on Tuesday.
Correct. If you would recommend, moving this forward to the council for the public hearing, I think that would be the ideal.
Okay. Yes, Paige.
Just to clarify, I know it's been mentioned before, but the EDC would be voting in its capacity as the TIF Advisory Committee. John, does that have any significance? Does the vote have to be done in a certain manner in light of the state's requirement and the local requirement for the TIF Advisory Committee?
No, I think as long as because the EDC is the TIF Advisory Committee, that would, your endorsement of this document and suggesting that it moves forward to the town council would cover that, as long as it's done by you, the Economic Development Commission. You don't have to reconvene as the TIF Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
So the motion would be that to vote on that we recommend that this would be moved forward to the town council as changed, as submitted, correct?
Correct. I think if you wanted to say, we endorse the changes or we recommend the changes and we recommend that the council go through the public hearing process, that would be great.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So I would, Lauren, if I guess write up the motion as John presented it, and yes, Paige, I saw your head come for it, so you had a question.
I think especially with the Zoom format, it appears as though there's support for the motion, but we should also ask all those opposed and if anyone's abstaining.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? So the motion was to recommend and our endorsement of the changes as submitted by John, and all were in favor to make that, to go forward with that.
Aye.
Yes.
Just reaffirming for Zoom. So very good. Thank you so much, John. Any changes, as John said before, shoot him an email just to, so that he can see if it's reasonable to incorporate it into it.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you again, everybody. I really appreciate all your support and help with this. You guys all make a lot of this stuff so much easier for us. So thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks,
We
John.
do our best. Thanks, John.
Have a good night, John.
Okay, so next on the agenda is our business outreach, and it's the Healthy Community Initiative. As I stated at the last meeting, I was extremely pleased with the efforts of the staff, but also from the commissioners that have gone out there. I know of last meeting, a lot of us made comments on the calls we made, but there were still some people that for time constraints and such, they didn't have an opportunity and they were going to do it. And I know that there was follow-up. So I just want to keep in with that same theme for at least this meeting to see if there was any other people that got out there. I know Tom made calls. I think Paul made some additional ones, if I'm correct. And I think Susan made some additional ones.
I did, yes.
But I'm happy to hear from everyone, because I think it's important for us all to hear what we're getting out there when we're meeting with these businesses. So Tom, do you want to start?
I'm here.
Do you wanted to share with how the meetings went?
Yeah, it's actually most were receptive as far as us being out there, giving out the masks again, letting people know that we're here for them, that they can reach out to the town and also get on the email list to see what's happening, what kind of developments are happening in the town, and what's being developed as far as like the the departments, et cetera, and what's going on with the schools. So almost all of it was great feedback. It wasn't, there really wasn't any complaints, as most of the places that I visited were the restaurants that were doing all the takeout. So it was, I thought it went very well. I did reach out to see if there was any other businesses I could go reach out to, and at the time, I think Lauren said that there was nothing else that they could come up with for me. So if there is, I'd be happy to make some more rounds.
Well, this will be a continuing theme, not just for what we did in this exercise, but I think it's kind of just tying into, we got to be out there in front of these businesses no matter what. So the healthy community gave us something to go out with, but I want to continue this, but I just love the feedback that I've gotten so far. Hey, Tom, just another, how have people that you've met with fared through this whole COVID quarantine, business model changes?
They're open. The pizza place up the street, the bakery, they're busy. I mean, they're busy with takeout, and when I was there, they were busy with customers coming through. Didn't really get the feeling from the places that they were having. Obviously, if they could have some more dine-in, would have been great. But no, they seem fine. Quite, in my opinion, from discussing it with them. A few reached out to me that said if we can do some kind of, during tax season, some cooperative advertising or have their stuff here, et cetera. But aside from that, no, I didn't. Again, nothing negative. I was grateful that I could keep my offices running, so I was happy about that.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Susan, you had some follow-ups also and additional calls?
Yes, I did. First, I want to let you know that I did go back to that the convenience store, Veterans Convenience Store. If you recall, they wanted to put a sandwich sign out, and so I went back, and he wasn't there, but I told his staff person that he can put a sign out as long as he doesn't put it in the ground, and that he removes it each night. So I did go back and let them know that. So that was, a good thing. So something positive. Also, I visited the Taco Bell. I just left the masks and the posters with the employees, and there wasn't obviously an owner there, but I did say, I did, promote the town and promote our, our support, and that reach out, and we're here for you, and those kinds of things. And just to, leave those items with them. Jay's Market, same thing. I just saw an employee there, handed the items to them, and again, same thing. And then Pickpocket, which is actually right next door to Jay's Market. It was again an employee, and I provided the poster and the masks, and so they all seemed pretty pleased that that I showed up. I tried to, let me see here. I did want to go to the midnight hooker lounge. I don't know. I just really didn't like it. Maybe somebody else can go and have a drink while they're there. But I just couldn't do it. Then I went to I tried to find the Pause place. It was down back in some neighborhood, and it was down this steep driveway. And I just didn't feel comfortable going to somebody's house, so I just didn't. It was way out there in down Route 12. But anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that. And then finally, the Cleopatra's, I couldn't find it. I'm going to keep looking for it. It's 79 Gold Star Highway. And I just kept looking, and then finally I thought I just needed to get some things done. So I, came back to my home office. But I will try to, find that business. The other thing, I think there was one more that I met with, and that was the Everything Zen massage location, and they're actually in the sort of the medical building on 184, the 495 Gold Star Highway. I actually talked to the owner. And she's in the office building with all the doctors' offices and everything. So I thought that was interesting. and not just somewhere else more visible. I asked her how business was. She said it's getting better. She actually rents space to people that utilize that office and the little rooms to, for their business. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I did, talk to the actual owner, and that really is my report.
Thank you.
Susan, can I
Sure.
point out,
Justin.
coming from me of all people, I will tell you, the owner of the Taco Bell is a wonderful person. And
Good to know.
if his employees actually put that in front of him, he will step up and use it.
Oh, that's
So
great,
that
Justin.
was a good stop you made.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
feedback.
yeah, thank you. I like to go in, no matter if it's employees or whoever it is. It's always nice to be able to talk to the owner or somebody in charge. It's always the intent. But just to be there, I'm just happy to do it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Justin.
Thank you, Susan. Paul.
Yes, so very good reception from everybody. And Susan, I think the Midnight Hookah Lounge is out of business, but certainly if it's not, I can take that one. I have the pleasure of
I know where it is.
I have the pleasure of visiting Rosie's and Minx as well. I don't know if that was intentional, but I got the good list. So but yeah, everybody was really receptive. Everyone was very encouraged. They loved the masks. The masks were a big hit. I'd say with the posters, there was some concerns, both from a corporate perspective and signage, not being approved corporate signage. For some of the more corporate fast food joints and things like that. And then one establishment brought up to me the fact that the sign did say that masks will be provided. And they said that they didn't feel comfortable posting that because they didn't know if they were going to be able to provide everybody a mask, beyond what we gave them and what they had in supply. So just something, kind of a learning going forward. Maybe we think about making obligations on our signage that maybe the businesses can't adhere to. So I think the business climate seemed pretty good. I was able to visit the Jersey Mike's because there was a couple businesses that were closed on my route as well, out of business, or closed since March. So Rosie's, I think, was closed since March. Northeast Wings has been out of business. So I had a few extra masks due to that. So I visited Jersey Mike's and got their information, which I provided to Lauren. They mentioned that they were the busiest Jersey Mike's for the month, I believe, in the United States. So that was prior to Chipotle opening, which I didn't get to because there was a line out the door, and I didn't think it was a good time to stop in and bother them. But overall, the business climate's great. I think the one person I talked to that had a challenge was the hop yard down near Wings and Pies, near the sub base. The owner, Nikki, she was just mentioning to me how, they're only open, 3 days a week. They had to add food, so they got a smoker and things like that. They're trying to do what they can, but it's business is very sporadic. It's hard for them to plan anything. It's hard for people to know whether or not they're open or not. So people just don't know that they can go there, is something that they're dealing with, and one of their challenges. And then the other thing is just understanding what they can and can't do is difficult as well. She said there's plenty of information out there, but she's not sure what the definitive source is. So I think that's my only feedback from a challenge perspective. But overall, really great reception, really great visits.
Thanks, Paul. And I'm going to go to Justin and/or Craig. Any updates from any additional calls? Or I know, Craig, you said there were other businesses you called on because one replaced the other, but you guys pretty much had thorough reports last time. So I just wanted to make sure I gave you the ability to share if there's anything that. So Justin's a no.
And nothing major to add. I did add the one North Swell, which was interesting to me only because it started as a pop-up store and they decided they were doing well enough that they would keep going for a while and see how it goes. So that was an encouraging sign about what it was like to be in downtown Mystic.
Thank you. Anything else to share on that aspect of our outreach? Yes, Paige.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank everyone for their time in doing that. We obviously think it makes a big difference, and I think even now with COVID, but also in terms of the masks, we have about 100 or so left, and I don't think we've received any requests for additional masks. But if you're aware of anybody, if anyone reaches out to you, or you think maybe you have some ideas, or if you're making second rounds and you want to pop in, and if you find that they're out, more than happy to try to make some arrangements. Or if you think you want to hand more out, we have a box of about 100, and they were for businesses, so we want to make sure they get used. I just want to put that out there, let you know we have a supply.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Did anyone have Renegade by chance? I mean, I hit the barbershop in my plaza over here, but my friend runs this. I don't know if anyone had Renegade on the list.
I think Renegade was on. I don't know whose list it was on. It might have, for some reason, it looked like it was on mine, but I'm not positive. They didn't get a
Yeah, I was going to say, Bill, I mean, it's right next door to me, and my friend Troy runs it. If you want me to grab a few masks and bring it over there, I can certainly do that.
Sure. For some reason, I thought I stopped in there, though.
Yeah, I'm not questioning. I didn't know if it was done or not.
Hey, that was for me. Yeah. That was a while ago. So for some reason, I recall it, and I'm like, going, I think that was one of mine. But sounds good. I mean, if that's something you're interested in, I know I will go around with my Groton mask on, just for lack of, that's the one I have on at that time. And people ask, where'd you get that from? So I said, I let them know. So they like the branding with Groton on it, I guess. But I try to, direct them to businesses, as that's what we've done with them. So, and another footnote on the signage, because I heard Paul talk to it, because I ran across the same thing of corporate. With Mattress Firm, and I think there was another one that gave me the same. My bank, actually, we had a call on a leadership group that I'm with, and one of the issues was we had a lot of those different signs because they come from different departments and such. And I actually sent up a copy of the one that we put together, and they're very receptive to going to more of that universal symbols, and adapt it for all the different branches. To give some conformity. So they thought that was a great idea, that we actually were doing that in our community. And here I can't even put one up in the bank because I have to conform to what our department says. But it'll be interesting to see if they adapt to it, because I think it makes a lot of sense. So great. And furthermore, now on business outreach, to go to what the whole thing, because I agree with Paige. I thank everyone for their time and efforts, and I know COVID kind of got us all motivated, and what can we do for them? But it's something I really want to continue on. So you have your list. So I think the more we go out and touch them, for a perfect example is on Monday we start the plastics, which I'll touch on in my report. But even if you grab a few extra masks or whatever like that, and just go in and say, hey, if you need any more masks, I have a few more I can give you. Is there anything else? And make them aware of the plastic ordinance if it's something that pertains to their business model, because that's really what this is all about, is to get out there and to get in front of them. And I think one of the powerful things I heard was Susan going back to just give that information that they questioned sandwich boards, and hey, I got an answer for you. You can do it. If that gets back to the owner, that's huge, because they're probably not used to that, is people responding and following up with it. So, that's what this exercise is all about from our standpoint, is we're supposed to be outreaching. So,
and I went back like a day or two later, so it was pretty quick too. So,
yeah, I mean, that's powerful. That's really powerful for what we're doing here. I think we're moving in the right direction. It's more outreach in this short period of time I've seen than the whole time I've been on the commission, because we've talked about it a lot. And this is actually, putting into motion though. So I do appreciate everyone's, and I applaud your efforts, because I think you guys have kind of got energy from it. At the end of the game, you're getting energy out of it because you are seeing the businesses that we represent. So moving on to the next item of business, Economics Assistance Fund, the subcommittee. It's been in place for a while. Paige and I discussed it when we had our pre-meeting, and there really hasn't been a lot of reason for the subcommittee, and plus we've had members that were on it that are no longer on the commission. So it's something that we kind of have to, we do have something on the table that we're not going to discuss at this point anyway, but it's a good idea to have the subcommittee back up and running. So from that being said, I'm going to put myself on that committee. I would also like to ask George to stay on the committee, because he was one of the only now commissioners that was on it before, and he brought a lot to the table with that. And I also would like to put out an invitation to Tom, because it's just something with the financials and such that we're looking at that I think it would be something good for you to be involved with. And basically what it is the subcommittee meets for any proposals that are coming when people are looking for this economic assistance, which has to do with the infrastructure and such, the parameters that we look at. And then we refer that back over to the full commission. So everyone's involved, but it's just the way to chunk it down and to come to decisions on amounts and such like that. So Tom, if you're accepting of that position, and George, if you're accepting to stay on, I would appreciate it. And we'll go from there. And then we'll be forthcoming with the next time we have to sit down and meet. George.
Yeah, so Bill, sorry to interrupt, George.
Tom, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to say I have no issue being part of it. And again, I haven't been on this, I haven't been part of these meetings for the last several months, just due to my schedule, my daughter's travel schedule, and it's still going on. So I am happy to help. I hope I'm not disappointing anyone with my lack of attendance at these last few meetings. But I certainly will be available to help. But if I'm traveling or out of town, I'm assuming you would rearrange so we can meet, or I could be on a call or something, correct?
We're always accommodating, and right now we're meeting this way anyway, so we will make it where it's workable for everybody. Okay. And I just think it's a good place for you on the commission, so I try to look for our strengths and where we best fit in everywhere, and that's how I do most things. So,
excellent.
Thank you, Tom. George.
Justin is away. I would like to nominate him also to be on the meeting, the committee. And Paige would probably recognize this. I think we need in that committee somebody who also would have first-hand knowledge of construction work or remedial work on a broad level. And as a restaurant owner.
George, you're echoing, just so you know. It's hard to understand you.
I think you said you were nominating Justin for, and I'll definitely take that under advisement. Right now, we're just going to do, because we have other people for that thing, but.
Bill, you're going to take it because he's not there.
Yeah, I always like to do that. When people don't show up for meetings, like David could be nominated and approved for many different positions that we don't even have yet because he's not here. But right now, I'm just going to start with the three, and then I'll discuss it with Paige, and just because I want to make it as efficient as possible too. There's Justin. Congratulations, Justin. But I appreciate the feedback on that, George. And as I said, I'll discuss it with Paige, but that was just our thing. Paige.
Sure. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So this is an important committee, but they don't meet that often. So we are sensitive to everyone's time, but it doesn't require that much time. But Sam and I really are the ones that shepherd an economic assistance fund request through. And just to give a little background, the applicant submits the documentation. There's significant back and forth between the applicant and the staff before it even gets to the EDC. The subcommittee is used when Sam and I feel that we have filtered it and scrubbed it enough and it's ready for review. And we definitely have some ideas on maybe what direction it's going in. And there's been some great back and forth between the subcommittee and staff that further refines it and gets it to a point where it's ready to go so it can be elevated to a full EDC vote. And just to give some recognition, in the past, we've had David Preka, David Cody, I think Peter Legnos was involved. George's comments have been excellent. It really rounds things out and kind of binds it together. So I'm happy he's going to continue to be involved. But it's important to have a variety of opinions and perspectives as we look at these requests. And I think as a result, we've had some great approvals, and it's because of everyone involved. But it doesn't require that much time. And in some ways, it's really exciting because it makes a big, big difference with these projects.
Thank you, Paige.
Bill, quick question.
Yes, Justin.
Was I volunteered for something while I was
Always,
using
when
the
you
restroom?
leave, you're always volunteered. You know that by now. No. to be followed
why I
up
had to
with.
leave.
Don't worry about it. No stress.
Okay.
All right. So to keep this moving on for the chair report, a couple things I want to bring up. We did hold the forum. Oh, Paige has something else?
Sorry about that. So we have consensus. We're going to move forward with those names that are provided. And I just wanted to say one last thing as well. We're going to we do have one application, and I don't want to get into the details of that right now, but we are going to try to convene this subcommittee pretty quickly. So you'll hear from us in trying to set up a meeting. We'll reach out and try to find a time that works for everyone. That's all I had to say.
Great. And just if you would reach out to Tom just to kind of get some ideas of what his schedules looks like, so we can do that, because I can accommodate most things, so within reason. So very
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Are you just, Paige, are you reaching out through, you're just going to email me, or is that, it's fine. I mean, I'm assuming, like, are you typically doing these mornings, afternoons, when?
We do not have a typical time. We try to get consensus. We'll try to reach that by email. Is that okay by you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine.
And we'll throw out a few different options and hope that we can get everybody there.
Okay, no worries.
So for the chair report to move on, the first aspect is we did have the forum, which was on the 21st. Very appreciative of Justin, because he was instrumental in getting us a couple suppliers to be on the line. It was on a Monday. It was at 5:30, so a little early. I don't know if that impacted the participation, but more importantly, we did it. It's recorded. It's on the Explore Groton page. I did invite the Day newspaper. She did view it. That much I do know. Because at the end of the day, on Monday the 5th is when the moratorium that the council had voted on to postpone it is going to effect. And we got some pretty good information from the suppliers, and just to give people some, if not a resource, just some ideas of what they should be preparing for to ramp up for some of these alternative products to the plastics. And it was kind of interesting because one of them was a really good salesman, and we were trying not to make it about sales, but you know, it really did give, they were putting out information, and they were two large size business, local size business. And they both basically had the same perspective on the standpoint of the time they need to ramp this stuff up. So I wish it was more heavily participated with the public, but I saw that sometimes there were like 6 or 7 people on the call itself. So I'm glad at least we put something together, even though it was quick, to do that. I was talking with Susan, if anyone takes the chance to read the day newspaper, Sam had sent out an update to us. I believe it went to all the commissioners, but there was an article that she wrote in the day regarding the plastics, and she made references. I did speak with her and gave her my impact of what I've seen and what I've heard about this may not be on a lot of the restaurants or vendors' radar because they've been in survival mode for so long. But the one thing I did put in there, which she did print, which was nice, is get their email to us to communicate, because that's how the best, most efficient way for us to communicate with them. So we would like to expand that. That's one of the main exercises of the outreach, is just try to collect the email addresses. It makes it far easier for Sam and Lauren, whatever, to get outreach to them for things that are coming up. Because there is a lot of information on that page for the businesses. So I was very pleased with that. Also on my report, and this is to keep on your radar for our November meeting, because it's that time of year again. We do have to have votes next month on officer elections, calendars, I think review of bylaws. Another thing that was brought up is our annual report. So November is the month that we go through all that. Just so everyone's aware that, it's one of those meetings that you should be, if you can make, please attend, as we encourage you to attend all of them. So just to make sure that everyone doesn't get to the meeting and be like, I didn't know we were doing this. So normal course. The year's kind of flown. It's kind of odd how it went, but I can't believe it's going to be November, our next meeting. So anything else to add on for the next calendar page that we should keep on our radar, or is that?
I believe that's it. Lauren is actually great at keeping track of these things, but in terms of the annual report, that always raises a lot of questions, and there have been a lot of different approaches on that. It is something that the EDC should complete, but it's something that actually had not been done prior to 5 years ago. It has been, I believe, a decade that the EDC went by without doing any. So over the past few years, we have a good track record in submitting the annual report. Sometimes the annual report has been lengthy. Sometimes it's more of an advocacy-based report. I think over the past couple of years, it's been more of a concise report. It doesn't need to be a thesis. It really can be short, to the point, and that's fine. But someone on the EDC or a collection of people on the EDC typically will draft it. It's my understanding last year, Craig had done a heavy lift on that. We are more than happy to provide data. If the EDC wants us to take a review of it, maybe help with some formatting, we can do that. But the EDC is the one that usually will craft it. But again, it does not need to be long.
And I think that, Susan, I think too that the main, the important, looking back is fine, but I think a really important aspect is I think we've decided that 1 or 2 goals for the coming year is something that we all have to collectively participate in determining what that is. And I think that's really probably one of the most important parts of the annual report, in my opinion.
Looking forward, I agree. Give a little recap, but we should be looking forward, and we have things to build off of this year. So I'm much more inclined to be, I like using a bullet point approach to most things, because I'd rather describe things in words if someone wants to question them, because it is a consensus more. But we can review that next month, and if everyone wants to think of some potential goals we could have for 2021, that'd be great. And that we can discuss and go around, because sometimes Justin's laughing at that one. So as I said, it's a good exercise, especially in my opinion, is to how do we build off of some of the things we did this year. And even though it was a very challenging year in general, I think we actually did some pretty good stuff, and that's what we want to build off of. So, how do we expand off some of these ideas that we've been incorporating? I know right up front, one of my goals from the get-go was to try to do these quarterly forums, and COVID kind of completely blew that up. It doesn't mean it's not something that wasn't a good thing to do, but we can relook at it. So, anything else?
Bill, in terms of the quarterly forums,
Yep.
for business owners, well, we have proven we've nailed the Zoom thing, so we can do it via Zoom rather than like in person.
I agree with you completely. Honest opinion, I can't wait till Zoom era is over.
Yeah.
But we know how to do it. So as I said, the avenue isn't shut down where early on it was because we didn't have the Zoom avenue. I'm willing to use whatever avenue that we want to do. If it's easier for businesses to participate vis-a-vis Zoom, hey, maybe you do a hybrid type of forum. Because I've seen that with the town council meetings where you have counselors are different and then you have staff that's sitting at the town. So yeah, those are great ideas and use everything that we got to try to improve upon it. So.
Well, the good news is if there's a snowstorm, nobody can say they can't make it because
Correct.
So there's no excuses anymore.
And Lauren's actually very good with creating these Zoom meetings and from the one we just did on for the plastics, all the participants are the only ones that show up on the screen, but anyone else can call into it. They just don't have an access code to be, active on the call itself. So, there's a lot of ways of doing this and making it easier for some of the businesses to say, yeah, Monday's a horrible day for me, but I can go in by phone or I can go in by Zoom or whatever and take the time. I'm not leaving the business. So I think that's all good stuff.
I'm not sure if this is appropriate for thinking about next year's plan or something we should be putting on the radar now. But if you look at the trajectory for COVID now, with it's going up a little bit, it's becoming indoors time, which is going to make it harder for a number of the businesses and restaurants to make it and so on. Is there anything we should be doing proactively to help people think through how they deal with this transition as things tighten up and maybe get worse before they get better?
If I may piggyback on what Craig was saying, actually, that was in my mind. Well, Justin is here. Got four things in mind. First,
You gotta get close to the mic, George. You're just there's an echo to your.
there's an echo?
Yeah, you're too far back, I think. There you go.
Oh, so I have four things in mind. I want to piggyback on Craig. How, well, maybe Justin can be our touchstone. I would like to know how our restaurants coping in this COVID era. How are they managing with food services outdoor? How are they going to be coping with the upcoming cold weather? How are they going to, what kind of resources that they may need from the state or from the town in helping them get over this time frame? Because the next 6 months is going to be very, very tight with the cold weather and their revenue, their staff, and all those kind of things. These are things that I believe our town EDC needs to have some level of awareness about, because this is our town. This is our economic development. This is our businesses that we need to see what they need. So that's number one. And Justin, I was hoping for you to reply to that later on. Secondly, from Paige, any feedback on where status are with the opportunity zones and stuff like that, and if there's any else on the pipeline? And third is there some kind of activity going on with the EDA with Groton that the town of Groton could participate in or is participating with, who would like to participate? And fourth is there some element of support that the state could give the town of Groton in terms of economic assistance, economic development, and all the other things? I'm asking this because I know we are recorded, and with my role in the state, I want to make sure that at least while it's recorded, at least I was to offer and ask what could be conveyed to my other boards.
George, I can tell you,
Please.
we have not been open indoors since March 16th. We're opening probably Monday or Tuesday inside. We delayed because of some renovations, and we also delayed because I will tell you, my entire staff is nervous about having people inside.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And my staff, as far as I'm concerned, they're my family. I care
They
about
should
them.
be. Yep.
And if they're not comfortable, I don't want them to come to work where they're uncomfortable. But they also realize it's a job and we need to make money. So it's hard for everyone involved, as their boss and as the employees. It's difficult because end of the day, I mean, money's a necessary evil. Like, we all need it. So
You get enough PPE and all that stuff?
oh yeah. Oh, we are sanitized beyond belief.
No, but are you getting all the equipment?
Oh yeah, we have everything.
And Justin, how was your the to-go business? Is that something that you were able to take advantage of, or no?
To-go business is still probably 50% of our business. And on a Friday and Saturday night, we have a tent outside. And that will be packed. People will be waiting in line for it. And still 50% of our business is takeout.
So you have a tent outside?
Yep.
And this is cold weather that we are going to come up eventually. So what preparation do you make for that?
The tent?
Well,
Hold on, George.
in the coming months, it's going to be cold weather, so.
I think the discussion is
Because
when
we're
it's
moving
cold out,
inside.
Justin, what are you doing outside? So now you make up that difference going inside, right?
Yes. Yep.
So I guess from all the calls I made, because I've discussed this with Justin, is the businesses that have done the best have adjusted to takeout, because that's been a huge portion of their business. And it's a different mindset of how do you package foods to go out, which kind of ties in with plastics and packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And then do the outside serving, because a lot of people couldn't take advantage of that, is how are they managing with the 50% capacity right now? Is that correct for the restaurants?
Yes, and then 75% next week.
Next week. So I know a lot of the ones I talked to in Mystic is they've been gearing up for this since August in their mind, saying, okay, this is fine. What do I do when it gets colder out? So the good ones have been looking at this from their business model. So, and Justin actually was the one that shared with me, that's why I didn't open inside, because my takeout business has been so strong. I haven't had to augment it with that inside stuff. So it's helped him and the staff.
My kitchen's only so big. We can only take care of so many people.
So I ask you, do you charge for the plastic for that takeout?
No, and I think I might start. Because the alternatives I have to use now are considerably much more expensive.
What is the alternative? Maybe
So-
you know what?
so
maybe
Hey,
we can
A plastic bag.
and I want to sit down, chat with you and.
Yeah, I would do that offline because I think they're good
Offline.
points.
So
But I
I
wanna go
want
back
to
to
hold
Craig's
everybody
original-
up here.
Yeah, Craig's original point was, can we do?
George,
we
come by the
something
restaurant. I'm there all the time.
Between
No, but
now
I
and
want,
then.
I need Paige and I need Bill with me too.
Paige is going to come on with the staff stuff, so I'm sure I can address some of the other things, which I think is that. But with Craig's point was, is there something we can be doing sooner than later with the advent of the colder weather coming up to give information to businesses? So I am happy to entertain if people have some ideas with that.
No, I wasn't looking at,
We'll get together pretty quickly.
I was looking at it from a state level on how we could help our restaurants and bars and whatnot. I don't have any ideas. It's George. I don't have ideas.
No.
I just want to take back what I can and see how I could facilitate or assist in some shape and form. Thank you, Justin. I would love to come down, but if I were to propose something on a state level in terms of this or that, or if you plan to charge, there must be some mechanism the governor or the legislators need to take in trying to deflect some of that cost for you in this time. But I need our head of economic development and obviously the chair being around would be wonderful as conveyors of that conversation when I bring it back.
Happy to do it. I just to try to keep our meeting going, but get in touch with Justin. I'm happy to get involved with that and anything
George,
we can do for you.
talk to me.
From that standpoint, George. So just to make that.
Paige, can you set that up for us? If you don't mind?
Yep.
Oh,
I can
you're
coordinate.
not coming to town,
I have
are you?
emails of everyone, so I can do that.
No, hang on. Paige
Yep.
doesn't come to town anymore, does he? He's a foreigner in Rhode Island.
What do you mean a foreigner?
He's
I'm
a
just gonna try to
persona
get my
non
meeting
grata in Connecticut.
Yep.
Aren't you a persona non grata?
I'm going to go over to Paige now because I know he's got a staff report and I just want to keep us on track. So, but I will get you guys together. So, Paige.
Hey, Bill, this is Sam. Can I just jump in real quick on that last topic?
Jump in, Sam.
This is really the opportunity is that you've got those email addresses that you got when you reached out with the masks, especially if you're starting to develop that relationship with those business owners and managers. I would encourage anybody, especially with the advent of this phase 3 reopening on October 8th, if you have restaurants on your list and you've got their email address, go ahead and shoot them an encouraging email. Make sure that they're aware. You can ask them, what do they plan to do? And you can also ask them, hey, can you think of something that would be a big help at this time? And, I know it's hard to reach these business owners. They're really busy. That makes complete sense. But if you drop an email to them, they may be very receptive and email you back. And then you can pass that information, share it with the staff or share it with the entire commission.
And thank you for that, Sam. And also you can put in that email, if you're addressing it, anything on the local and or state level, because that's kind of the things that George's bringing up is we don't have to just keep it, there might be something we can do on a state, at least give them information on the state level. So thank you, Sam. That's good input.
Sure. Thanks, Bill.
I will say, Sam, every restaurant owner is extremely busy, but when they see the town reaching out to them and what can we do to help, they respond to that.
Great.
They will respond. So, no, that you were very wise with that.
You're a wise
Thanks,
man, Sam.
Great.
But thank you. So
I
Paige,
think
I'm going to keep the meeting moving forward with the staff report.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm reporting to you from the Rhode Island Groton satellite office.
Yeah.
Just there you go, George.
The exotic foreign port.
All right.
If he doesn't sleep here, he's okay.
All right, here we go. So, speaking of COVID, that obviously has been a big focus of ours for a good part of 2020. I try to give you an update monthly. We're still quite active on that. I think everyone's aware of the governor's phase 3 direction from last week, which takes effect, I believe, October 8th. And in that staff report, I actually provided some of the highlights in terms of, and some of that's been referenced tonight. In terms of indoor capacity, it's increasing from 50 to 75%. And also outdoor venues, it's going from 25 to 50%. Of course, all of this is with social distancing, masks, safety protocol, etc. Indoor performing arts will be able to open at 50%. However, bars and nightclubs still remain closed. You know, we have been speculating for a while, when will they be open? I actually thought after Labor Day that would happen, but here we are. It's October and they're still closed. That definitely correlates with certain business revenue. And as we're going into the cold season, and likely dining is going to decrease with outdoor seating being reduced, if not eliminated, as a result of the weather. The bars, that's certainly going to be an impact on bottom line for a lot of restaurants.
So there's zero discussion, Paige, sorry to interrupt, there's zero discussion about a projection of when that might happen on a state level?
I'm not in a position to actually comment on that. I think those are conversations that are taking place, certainly. But you know, I'm going to get to something else in a second. But Groton isn't necessarily in that mix. I think that the hospitality industry, the restaurant industry, they are certainly, I am confident, pushing hard to try to get more of a favorable ruling. They've been working on that since spring. So I'm fairly confident of that. But anyway, there is a long-term recovery committee that Groton has, and we meet roughly monthly. I serve on that as Groton staff, and there are a number of elected officials, Town of Groton's mayors, the chair. We talk about a lot of these things. They did ask what sort of priorities could the Groton Town Council work up the ladder to the state, and they've asked for a listing. And that listing is being developed, and I don't think this is the appropriate time per se for the EDC to do this. But if you have ideas, we certainly have ideas. Sam has brainstormed, I've brainstormed. We're going to feed some of that up to the council. But offline, if you have additional ideas where you think legislation needs to be drafted or creative solutions, one of the concepts that it's a pretty basic business concept, keep the money in the wallet of the businesses. That's something that I'm trying to push, rather than coming up with another complicated federal or state program that requires so many layers of review. Is there a way that we can keep the money that these businesses already collect, whether it be sales tax or what have you? Can we give them the opportunity to keep some of that, even on a short-term basis? It's probably the easiest and best way to help the businesses. That certainly is going to be on our listing, but in light of the state's fiscal woes, that probably won't go over so well. They need as much revenue as they can get as well. But anyway, those types of ideas, if you want to share them with me, I'm actually going to be putting forward that final listing by probably by Monday, actually. So if you have ideas between now and Monday, please share them with me. They're going to be in rough form. I'll provide them to the town manager, and he will be feeding them to the council. Just moving on, your work in dealing with the businesses is really important, but if we really needed to get an accurate, wide net representation of how these businesses are doing these days, we have relied on Nava Retail, and I provided you all of that information to date. And we did receive the preliminary response from the August surveying of hundreds of businesses that are being reached out to by telephone, by the way. And I put the highlights in the report. It's not rocket science, but it helps us understand and validate what we think is going on. Businesses that rely on large gatherings, weddings, events, venues, photography, etc., they are the hardest hit. in terms of a distribution, 48% of the businesses are doing worse now than 2019. 34% have reached expected performance coming out of maybe the peak of the initial COVID impacts from the state. And then about 18% are performing better than expected. So small fraction. The last go around, PPE was a big deal. And that led to us pushing out the masks. It's not as big of a deal they're finding right now for many of the businesses. There was reference on the phone calls to people receiving the Groton masks. So it's kind of nice to know that actually is making a difference as well. It wasn't a huge number, but people took note. Supply chain disruptions, big, large problem. It seems to be growing. We heard that as well in the plastics forum that we held, but it's more than just non-plastics material. It's everything. And small businesses can certainly attest to that.
What kind of disruption?
I'm sorry, George.
What kind of disruption in the supply chain?
I think disruptions in terms of quantity, but obviously with supply and demand, if there's larger demand than there is supply, that's going to impact pricing as well. So, even if you can find what it is you need, obviously you're going to pay a premium to get it. The other real key important matter for Nava Retail is that they're finding a lot of small businesses do not adequately use online formats. And it's surprising. You would think that people understand, and we've all been, home and working all over the place. You would think that they would rely on online formats, not so much. And with that was a reference to them not adjusting their Google formatting in terms of their hours of operation. That's something that Sam and Lauren are working on, trying to provide a step-by-step format to try to help people understand how to do that. Oh, by the way, there is a copy of the preliminary results from Nava Retail in the back of the staff report. You can look at that in more detail. Again, it's still really rough right now, but I shared what they provided. Economic Assistance Fund, it took us a long time. We finally were able to get the check for Grand Wine and Spirits. That check was provided to that company. That's something that we had gained town council approval a while ago. Getting the documentation ended up being quite a challenge, but we're over that hurdle. We do have the one application for the standard at 3 Water Street. Earlier, we talked about having this committee convene. It will be that application that we discuss. Plastics reduction, that was already covered by Bill earlier. So just moving forward, the Mystic Parking Study has officially launched. And again, I've referenced this in the past, but we're not looking for a quick fix. We're not looking for just build a parking garage and all the woes are gone. We have hired a consultant. His name is John Burke, B-U-R-K-E. And he is a parking consultant that does work all through New England, a lot of historic communities. So he's worked in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, I believe Newburyport, Mass, work on the Cape. He's done some work in Newport as well. So I think his familiarity with communities like Mystic will come in handy. They've been doing some traffic counts and looking at parking, available parking. The long-term goal is actually to conduct a process. This will be both Groton and Stonington, by the way, to focus on short, medium, and longer-term creative solutions.
We cover Mystic as our Thames Street as well, for Jill's sake.
Mystic.
Sorry, Thames Street. City of Groton.
No, this is a Mystic parking study.
Okay.
So it's Mystic only. In terms of our staffing, we did have a new staff person start Tuesday. Tabitha Harkin, be our community development planner. You don't deal that much with that half of this division, but it is important to know she is here. we work closely. Economic and community development go hand in hand. She comes to us from New Bedford. She was the New Bedford planning director. Pretty happy to be involved, focusing more on projects. I think more than simply just dealing with administration. TRIP year 4, this isn't necessarily public, but we did submit a number of projects on behalf of both Groton and New London. They've gone before the CT Next board. They're being considered. There is no vote yet on that, but the request is approximately $1.5 million. Just
That's
moving
been
into the,
postponed, Page, so we are reviewing all of it. Next week, we'll, or the week after, we'll review all of it again. So there are a lot of granular that we're looking to get into, and we're not ready to make any funding available until that is cleared.
okay, thanks. Public property redevelopment, kind of the same status with the Mystic River Bluffs, also known as Mystic Education Center. The zoning, the TIF, also the master plan, all of that's really important. We're making significant progress on the interior programming for the Pratt building for recreation. We're meeting a couple times a week on that now, and it's pretty neat stuff. But how much you change on the inside in terms of the space, the programming, all that's pretty important. Groton Heights, we've got some increased traction on that moving forward. Thea Mahan, ready to move forward, and they want to move into a contract phase. So that's been kind of in an idle mode for several months. Gold Star Highway, we have some traction on that, moving that forward as well. Sealy School site plan was presented to the town council on September 22nd. They're in support of moving forward. The purpose at that time was to have them bless the concept. That plan included a lot of pedestrian vehicular access, parking, recreation space, stormwater management, on and on and on. But we're on board with that. We now move into some of the legal signatures, but they're ready to move forward and started to demo that building, and they'll be under construction in 2021. Colonel Ledyard School, good timing on that as well. Just a couple days ago, the preferred developer, which is yet to be released, he is ready to actually have what we would call the public unveiling meeting. There'll be 2 of them. So if people are interested, you're actually the first ones to know, I think, at this point in time. There'll be October 21st, which is a Wednesday at 5 p.m. And the second one will be Saturday, October 24th at 10 a.m. Again, Wednesday at 5, the 21st, Saturday, the 24th at 10. It'll be at the school building, probably under a tent. And there'll be small groups if anyone goes inside. So this will be obviously a different format for us with COVID and everything, but this is an opportunity for the community at large to understand who this developer is, what is being proposed. Staff will be present and get a sense for what it is before the council's asked to vote on the legal documents. Pleasant Valley School, we expect proposals due on October 28th. We definitely have interest on that redevelopment as well. The last point I'd make is the new addition, I think it was the last month, we started adding unemployment data, and it was my hope that we would find that that number starts to decline. I think the most important number to look at is the Groton number, August, and we did drop below double digit, which is really nice. We went from July's number of 10.9% unemployment down to 8.6. So, you know, it's not really the number that's important, it's the trend. You know, what direction are we heading to? We're probably not going to get back down to 3% where we were, you know, in March. That's kind of a crazy number, to be honest with you, but as long as we're heading in the right direction, it's important. But it will be interesting to see how that number plays out over the next few months as the weather changes, as we see our retail and restaurant industry try to manage that changing weather situation. That's all I have at this point.
Thank you, Paige. Any
So-
questions for Paige?
Yeah, so anything new on the opportunity zones?
We are continuing to work with
Any
advanced.
new projects, I mean?
What's that?
Anything new, projects or any update from the opportunity zones?
We continue to work with advanced CT with our opportunity zone. And what we're doing right now is actually focusing on partnering investors, which we know have looked at the Connecticut area, with property owners who are interested in trying to facilitate some project growth. We're having a small event later this month for such property owners and investors. And there are some projects that are coming along. Actually, the Gold Star Highway project, which I never really provide too many details on, that one is in an opportunity zone, and we've been waiting for the right developer to come in, and we think that that developer is there now. There are other properties that are ripe for development also, they can get those federal tax credits. So we're hoping our matchmaking is going to lead to success. But can I say that I have one as a result of an opportunity zone? No. Opportunity zone benefits are typically the icing on the cake. They're not going to make a project go from bad to good. It'll make a project go from good to excellent.
So, can you keep me appraised to when you guys gonna meet, please?
Sure.
And the second thing, what about EDA? Do you have anything happening with EDA?
Groton does not have any direct funding coming from EDA, with the exception of some of the projects. I know like the Undersea Innovation Group, they are applying for EDA funding. We recently provided a letter of support for them on that. As you know, that project is also going through the TRIP process for CT Next funding too. But we work closely with Sector, and Sector received a significant grant. I actually don't know the exact amount, but it's a significant.
Yeah, I spoke to Nancy yesterday.
Maybe $1.5 million, maybe $2 million for a couple things. One is to have a small business liaison, almost an ombudsman, to assist businesses in the region, but also Groton, of course, with their needs, understanding what their problems are, helping them try to get funding. In the event that there's any more stimulus monies, it would be for that as well. Secondly, that federal EDA money goes for a small business revolving loan pool. So we've been asked by members of our council, does it make sense to actually have a separate Groton small business revolving loan pool? And my answer was not at this time, because there were federal resources, state resources, and now we have regional resources. Sector is a financing entity, and they actually will have this financing to assist Groton businesses and more, and to administer it. I actually don't know at this point in time when that money is going to be available, but I think it's any time.
I would advise you to set up, I mean, it's my personal recommendation, that you would convey my thought and say that it would be better to set it up than push it away, and thereby it could be a valid pool available for future access. And yes, that particular gentleman, person for Sector would be actually reporting to SBDC, if I'm not wrong, by the way, or in some kind of a direction from them. But I was thinking aloud just while all of us were talking earlier about our Economic Assistance Fund, that it would be an opportune time to look at a separate funding for small businesses. And I wanted to even ask you now, if there are minority businesses in the town of Groton that are looking for business investments or business assistance, that would be something that I'm looking to channel some funding to as well. We were struggling back in, I think I missed one meeting, we were struggling back in June or July, trying to push out PPE. We had funds set aside for PPE, but we didn't have a mechanism to, in all 169 towns, to push it out. There's no vehicular structure to send out, and neither did we ascertain a supplier altogether. So I think with all that in mind, please convey to your council, set up a small business fund, because post-COVID, all small businesses, not only just in Connecticut, not just in Groton, but in the entire country, are going to face new issues that this country and neither the world will have come to embrace. And if we have some kind of a fund set aside that we could learn as we go and fund, would be helpful.
Thank you.
I'd probably like to talk to you about that offline, because there's some real challenges in operating such a fund like that. But we can discuss it. One other thing, I know we want to move this along, but I do want to emphasize we have pursued CDBG funding with COVID. So I know there was a question about what other funding we're going after. We haven't heard yet from the state, 300,000. But if we're successful, we would have a repository for supplies that would be directly conveyed to businesses and other organizations in the event that we're hit with another phase.
Paige, this is a quick question. I don't want to drag this part of the meeting out, but I just have a really quick question. Under the Never Retail, the preliminary observations, there was mentioned that some businesses decided not to apply for the PPP funds because they were confused as to whether or not how they must or if they had to pay back the funds. I mean, there was no way of sort of creating support for those businesses that really didn't understand the process. I found that a lot with clients that I have that are business owners, that it was confusing, and I just feel so frustrated for these businesses that could have taken advantage of it, but didn't because they didn't know how.
I'll take that one, Susan, because that's what I've been working on for the past 6 months, and I'm in the forgiveness phase. The confusion came from SBA. The confusion came from the numbers kept on changing of how much had to be for.
Hang on, why SBA? Because the state was trying to give them money.
For PPP, it was different. PPP was from the federal government.
SBA.
They were the ones that
giving
were
money for
guidelines.
PPP
The
as
banks were doing their best to
Bill answer
accommodate.
the question, please.
So we did our best to convey, but they kept on changing it as every time we convey over. So I understand the confusion. Now we're at the forgiveness standpoint, and we did a lot of them after the fact, which was nice because when people understood, Congress also has to approve some of these things. So what's before them now is anyone less than 150,000, it is basically forgiven. So if they do that, which was, I would say the numbers for our bank, it came in at close to 90% or less than 150,000, it'll be a godsend because of all that process. But they were very confusing, and I think Justin was another one. What was it, were you able to use the funds for and the payback period? And I know a lot of people that actually got the funds, and by their accountants, they segregated it to a separate account just in case if I have to pay it back, I have it available to me. So that really was very difficult to communicate because they kept on changing it for us.
Bill, are you talking about PPP or PPE?
PPE, which is the paychecks, which is what Susan is like some people did not apply.
PPE is equipment.
Payment Protection
PPP,
Program.
Paycheck.
So it's PPP, not
Correct.
PPE.
And there was
PPE is equipment. That's what I was talking about.
No,
banks don't do with PPE, just the PPE.
No, that's what I was talking about.
No, and that was it, Susan, and I understand, but that's the federal government, and they're still giving us, we're starting applications for forgiveness on Monday, and we still don't have parameters, so we're doing the best as a bank, and I think all the banks are doing the same. It's just we're trying to take care of businesses. And I've communicated it to everyone I talk to anyway. So, but I hear you.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Thanks for clarifying that.
Justin.
If I could, oh, go ahead.
I don't know if Justin's counting, or so I'm going to go to Craig.
Okay, I'd like to come back to the COVID and the business economy. There are two things that we can probably predict. We don't know much of what's going to happen, and there are lots of details that we can't deal with. But one, despite the fact that...
Sorry, guys, I got to run away. I got a kid to pick up.
Okay, George,
I
thank you very
apologize.
much.
Thanks, George. Despite the fact that businesses are going to be allowed to go to from 50 to 75% or whatever they're able to do, Justin's comments about his employees also fit the patrons of all these places. People aren't going to want to go. I'm talking to your friends or looking at your own behavior. For a while, people are not going to inhabit restaurants that have high numbers of people. So we can expect a decline coming. And then we can also expect that there will be a vaccine at some point. And the question, I guess I'd put on the table for us to think about as we're looking at what we do going forward is how to help companies, businesses, restaurants survive during the short term when they're going to get clobbered long enough to still be around to come back when the vaccine actually does create some sort of herd opportunity that we can actually go back to something more like normal. It's not for today to solve, but I think as we frame what we're looking at, I think we know that's going to happen. Both of those are going to happen. And we ought to be paying attention to, so what can we do about it?
And Craig, I agree with you completely. And if you look at the report that we had from Astor, is some of it maybe is outreaching about your approach to online advertising. And maybe it's some of the things that Paige works on from the standpoint of going to the state with proposals is, can we give them a tax break from that, which is probably not going to happen. So I concur with you. Those are something from an EDC standpoint that we can probably promote, especially from the standpoint of the online presence, that some of these businesses haven't even changed their hours online to help with the takeout business and such. So I concur completely with you.
At the sign off, Bill, as I mentioned, we still have a quorum, I believe, because we still have
a quorum, and we're going to, on that note, I'm going to go to the next item, and we will proceed with some of those other ideas offline. But I'd like to just hear from liaison reports, not to cut you guys off, but Adam, would you like to share?
Well, I'm going to cut in, guys. There's a great moon rising right now.
Thank you, Justin. I'm watching it out my window, but we're going to complete our meeting first. Adam.
That's the harvest moon, I think, right?
And there's the blue moon at the end of the month, so we got that to look forward to.
Right. All right. Hi, everyone. Just quickly, kind of some good news and some bad news. Good news I have in my report about the census response. Subbase stepped up and really did a good job promoting getting military members to report, self-report in the census. Had a few events. The numbers are in the report. So, it wasn't just me. It was everyone involved, including Balfour Beatty and the housing folks. So they really promoted it and got the people who live in Groton who might not think they should report to the census to report. So that's all good. On the bad side, you may have seen recently, just the last week, the uptick in New London COVID cases, New London County. And the subbase has to take that super seriously. They're monitoring this daily. And we're gonna lock back down to what we call health protection condition C, which is almost more like phase 1. So basically they tell military personnel to go back to that condition, kind of prohibiting people from going out to restaurants. They can still take out, but to the extent that they could eat outside and stuff. And then it's kind of going the opposite direction of phase 3 with the state, unfortunately. So hopefully temporary. Leadership is watching this literally day by day. So if things come back down, we can go back along with the state's plan. But in the short term, we're going to actually probably see a few less sailors out there. They advise civilians, we don't always abide by those rules, but but we're supposed to too as civilians. So unfortunately, that's the case. Maybe it's the uptick due to schools. I don't know. No one really knows. It seems like New London's getting the uptick, but a lot of other counties in Connecticut are not. So kind of soon to tell where that's headed, but a short-term impact, hopefully. And George left, but I was going to mention the Department of Defense Office of Economic Adjustment just, awarded the Council of Governments $250,000 to do a parking study and a transit study around electric boat in the city of Groton. So that's a good chunk of change for a very professional firm that's going to get awarded that shortly. And that will certainly complement the Thames Street work and probably have some tentacles out further into the town. But that's a very positive thing too. Some federal dollars coming in to do a detailed study that probably the city wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. So I'll keep you all posted on that as that gets developed. There'll be public outreach and public involvement aspects to that whole study. So I'll keep everyone informed about that too.
Thank you, Adam. Aaron, anything you want to add to your report or anything?
Well, thank you. So no formal report this month, so I'll just have one quick kind of comment or story. So we're starting to move towards testing and commissioning of the new water treatment plant, and I'll have more information on that next month. But I was able to tour the new facility on Friday, and I was just kind of really taken back and humbled by the talent and the time of the personnel, and also just the infrastructure itself, which is awesome. And it's just humbling to see what it takes to get a drop of water out of your faucet. So that's my only comment for this evening.
Thank you, Aaron. And last but not least, Jill, share anything with the RTM?
Sir, hanging on tight to the end. Really, there's not much to report from the RTM. The one thing is that the Civilian Oversight Review Committee is still working on recommendations for the town council on possible police oversight. That's about it.
Thank you very much. And any other business to come before the commission tonight? George has left us, so there is no other additional business. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good night.
Night, guys.
Thank you. Good night.